Good morning.
Good morning.
Awesome. Glad you guys are awake this morning. I know it's kind of early for some people. Some people don't believe in getting up before 8 o'clock, Juanita. Didn't mean to call you out there. But I just want to say I am just so happy and grateful to be able to share with you this morning. As Kim mentioned, my name is Sharika Matthews. I am an author, a speaker, and a life coach. And my purpose each and every time I show up is to equip and empower each and every one of you to find your purpose, to live in your purpose, and not let anything stop you or keep you from your purpose and from your vision. So today, I want to talk about a specific topic that I'm sure a lot of us here can relate to, and that's overcoming disappointments. You know, over the past year or so, I've spoken with a number of women, and I've coached a few women as well, and I realized, especially here in 2016, a lot of us have faced a lot of challenges. We have had a number of disappointments in our lives. Disappointments on our jobs or lack thereof, disappointments in our family dynamics, disappointments in our finances, or maybe just overall life disappointments in some of the choices that's been made. And so, but one of the underlying things, or the most common theme I've found with a lot of women, is that we have experienced a number of disappointments in our relationships with the people that we invest our time, energy, and emotions into. And most of those relationships are going to be your romantic relationships. So if you don't know me, you don't know my story, I can probably be the poster child for disappointments. A few years ago, when I was still in my 20s, I decided to get married to this guy that I really believed was going to be the love of my life. I was going to spend my whole life with him and have babies and, you know, the white picket fence, the whole 9 yards. But 18 months later, that dream was shattered. We ended up in divorce. A few years later, I met another guy, and I was like, okay, God, this is my second chance at love. This is my second chance to have the life that I wanted. But after a few months of being engaged to each other, he said, it's not you, it's me. And I haven't seen him since. So to say that I was disappointed, I think that's an understatement. I would say I was devastated. I was completely devastated by that. Those two particular events threatened to change my entire belief system and my entire outlook on myself, on my life, and even on God. Because I thought that I was walking in faith. I thought that I was doing what God was telling me to do. And although I was able to recover from these heartbreaks, it still left me with a lot of questions, such as, what did I do wrong? Or could I have done something different? But let me tell you this, there's a couple of things I remember from those incidents. And I've experienced disappointments in my job and finances and other areas of my life as well. But there are a couple of feelings that goes along with disappointments. The first thing I remember feeling is like a failure. I felt like a failure because I made the wrong decisions. I felt like a failure because I chose to be engaged or I chose to date certain people. And then with the disappointment, I was disappointed in myself. Because again, I'm responsible for me, and I'm responsible for the decisions that I felt. And last, I felt like I was disappointing God. Can anybody relate to that? Right. So this is something that we all go through at some point in time. And when I was feeling this way, I wanted to stay in my feelings. I wanted to be angry, I wanted to give up, and I just wanted to throw in the towel. But I knew that that was not necessarily the option. Because what I did not want to do, I already considered myself the poster child for disappointments, but I did not want to be the poster child for insanity. You know what the definition of insanity is, right? Doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting a different result. So the question now becomes, what do you do with that disappointment? What do you do with feeling like you're a failure? I've actually encountered a few people who don't necessarily ask that particular question. What they ask is, how can I get through life without disappointments? I got a secret to tell you. You can. I don't care how great you are. I don't care how beautiful you are. I don't care even how successful you may be. You cannot get through life without experiencing some type of disappointment. Why? You're not perfect. He's not perfect. She's not perfect. And the world is not perfect. So you're going to have these disappointments. But what are you going to do with that? Are you going to step up to your disappointments and address them with wisdom? Or are you going to cower behind them under fear, under distress? What are you going to do with that? One of the quotes that you see here on the screen here that I really like, it says, "It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance." When you go through life trying to avoid disappointments, trying to avoid getting hurt, you never really experience life. You never live. So now let's get back to the original question. How do you overcome disappointments? How do you go on with your life when you've had your heart broken? When you set up these life plans for yourself and you just fall through the cracks? I'm going to go over 5 things I want you to do when you face disappointments. The first tip, and take notes, you guys have notepads here on your table, you have pens as well. So feel free to take notes. And I'll have time at the end of the session for you guys to ask me any questions as well. So the first tip I want to give you is examine your beliefs about yourself. Examine your religious beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, and your emotional beliefs. One of the keys to overcoming disappointments is remembering the core of your emotional and your spiritual belief system. On some level, I believe every person in here believes in God or believes in a power higher than yourself that can do what you cannot do. So when you're starting to feel the pressure of disappointments and the weights of failure, you want to remind yourself of those things. And so to help you remember your spiritual beliefs, I have 3 questions for you. The first question is, do you believe that God is who he says he is? Amen. Do you believe that he is the same God yesterday, today, and tomorrow? The second question I have for you is, do you believe that he can do what he says he can do? Amen. Do you believe that he's going to take care of you? That he's going to defend you? That he's going to strengthen you? That he will heal your broken heart? Because all those are his promises. The third question is, do you believe that you are who God says you are? God says that you are his masterpiece. God says that you are more than your failures, your mistakes, your broken dreams, and your disappointments. You are a child of the Most High, and because of that, all things that happen to your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, are all working together for your good. Amen. Do you really believe that in the midst of your disappointment? So when you're going through those things, these are the questions that you want to start with. And what you see on the screen right now are a few more questions. Once you've established your core belief system, what do you believe as it applies to your life? Do you believe that you can find your love, your happiness, and your success? What do you believe about what's actually possible for you? Because a lot of times we put limits on ourselves, we put limits on our dreams, even though that's the opposite of dreaming. Dreams have no limits. And then we put limits on God. Do you believe that you're worthy? A lot of times we forget our own worth. If God says that you are his masterpiece, that you are beautifully and wonderfully made, you are worthy of the greatest things that God has to give you, but you have to believe in order to receive it. The next tip I want to give you is to focus on the lesson to be learned. And out of all the tips I want to give you today, I think for me, this was the most powerful tip. You know, what I do believe is that nothing happens to you by accident. God is a very intentional God, and he allows certain things to happen to you. So when I had my heart broken by my ex-fiance, I was pretty devastated. He didn't want to marry me. He didn't want to date me anymore. And so I took that a little personally, and I cried a lot. But that's what you do, right? When you've had your heart broken, when you're disappointed, when you feel as if the rug has been pulled out from under you. But in the midst of that pain, I allowed myself to surrender. And that's the key, surrendering your dreams, surrendering your thoughts, surrendering your vision. You see, up until this point, I planned out everything. For those of you who know me, my background is in engineering, so I'm a planner by nature. I love numbers and figures and writing out plans. That's what I do. And I had literally, since I was maybe in high school, I had a 3-ring notebook for the plans for my life. I kid you not. Am I the only one in here? All right, I see one. But that's how serious it was for me, because it was my comfort zone. We tend to operate, we tend to live, we tend to make decisions based on what's comfortable for us. And for me, it was my 3-ring notebook with my life plans. And this was a part of my life plan, to get married, to have children, do all this other stuff. But when that didn't happen, I became disappointed. And so what my lessons that God was trying to teach me, and these are my personal lessons, was number 1, include God in my plans first. See, what I used to do is I would take my little 3-ring binder. I'm like, oh God, look at this. You see my plans? Just sign right there. That was me. But God said, we need to have a conversation first. We need to get on this together. So that was my first lesson learned. My next lesson learned was that just because a man is a good man doesn't make him the right man. But honey, that's a book all by itself. The third lesson that I learned is that I am so much stronger than what I ever thought I was. I can truly do all things through Christ. And the last lesson I learned from this is that I must value myself more. So let me ask you this question, and take maybe about 30 seconds to think about this. What disappointment are you dealing with right now? What is holding you back right now? And what do you think God is trying to teach you in that? So in order to find out what your lessons learned are, you really do have to go to God. You really have to go to God in prayer, through meditation, and through reading of His Word. Take the focus off of your pain and focus it on the lessons. But I will also say this, and this is very important as well. You have to have experiences to learn and to grow. You know, the Bible tells us to count it all joy when we go through various trials, for the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And let perseverance have its perfect work, so that you may be complete, lacking in nothing. You know, when I used to read this verse, I'm like, ain't no way I'm gonna be all happy and stuff when I just got my heart broken and I just lost my job. How am I supposed to find it joyous through all of these trials? That's not what He's saying. What He wants you to do, He's allowing these things to happen to you so that you can have the endurance, so that you can have the perseverance, so that you can be complete, lacking in nothing. How many married women are there in the room right now? How many of you can attest to the fact that you need endurance and perseverance to stay married? So when you're having these trials, when you're having these challenges in your marriages, in your relationships, on your job, God is doing that to perfect your faith, to perfect your endurance, and to perfect your perseverance. Because where He really wants to take you, He wants to take you there prepared. Because whatever He has in store to bless you with, He wants you to keep it, not lose it. Come on now. So throughout your disappointments, you have to keep your focus on what God is really trying to teach you. The third tip that I want to give you is this: be patient. Special orders take time. Woo, right? I'm going to share this story with you. It's a video I saw on Facebook probably about 5 or 6 months ago, and you guys may have seen this video. So there was this guy, he's hungry, right? So he goes into a restaurant to order dinner. So he goes in, gets seated at a table, looks through the menu, and orders his food. So while he's sitting there waiting on his food to come, he notices there's another family that comes in after him. They get seated after him. They look through the menu. They ordered their food after him. But guess what happened? They got their food before him. And he was like, hold on. How are they going to get their food before me? I was here first. I place my order first. I have been patiently waiting, and they're going to get it before me? How many of you had that conversation with God before?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But let me ask you this. Well, let me go back. So the waiter came back, and he said, well, sir, I understand your frustration. I know that you've been patiently waiting. But you know, the menu item that you ordered is a special item. And those special orders take a little extra time. So sometimes we get disappointed because we're impatient. We're impatiently waiting on God to send us our spouses. We're impatiently waiting on God for our financial breakthrough. We're impatiently waiting on God to open closed doors. We're impatiently waiting. But where is your faith in your impatience? Where are your belief systems in that impatience? Because back in step number 1, what did we say? That we believe that God can do what he says he can do. If you believe that, then why are we so impatiently waiting on him? When he tells us to wait on the Lord, be strong and let your heart take courage. So be patient with yourself. Be patient with God and understand that everything comes in divine timing. The 4th tip I want to give you is this. Remember your power. You know, if you've ever heard me speak before, I say this a lot. We give away our power way too much, ladies. We forget the power that's already within us. But that's okay, because when we're going through disappointments, when we're going through life challenges, as women, we have emotions. And sometimes we allow those emotions to overcome us. But I want to remind you that you do have the Spirit of God within you. And when you have the Spirit of God within you, you have access to the power of God and to the strength of God. So we have to choose to operate in that power and in that strength versus letting our emotions control us. We control our emotions. And so I want to share with you this quote here by Harold Kushner. He's a Jewish rabbi. And it says, everything can be taken from a man, but the last of human freedoms. The right to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances.
That's right.
What happens to you, no matter how hurtful or unfair, is ultimately less important than what you do about what happens to you. And that's just a reminder that how you react to life disappointments is on you. You have the power to choose, but we have to choose not to let life circumstances and outside influences tell us how we should react. So refuse to let the discouragements of life permanently deter you from where you should be going. Reject the lies that the hurt and the pain tell you. Because if you've had your heart broken, you may end up believing that I'll never find a good man. Or if you've been laid off, you're probably thinking, man, maybe I'm underqualified and I'll never find a job that's going to pay me what I'm worth. Or if you started a business before and you failed at that business, you probably are thinking, man, maybe I'm not meant to be successful. Maybe I'm not meant to do this. But all of those are lies. Reject those lies. And the only way to reject those lies is to replace them with the truth that can only come from God. So in order to do that, you got to talk to yourself, right? You have to speak to yourself, because faith comes by hearing. And faith is another word for what? Belief. And the person you listen to the most is yourself. So talk to yourself sometimes. It's okay. Just don't do it in public, because I'm going to talk about you. No, I'm just kidding. But somebody will if you do it. But if you're at home, stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself. Speak the truth back into yourself. Speak the encouragement back to yourself. And one thing that I like that Joel Osteen says is you have to speak to your mountains. The Bible says that if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move, and it will be cast into the sea. So speak to your hurt. Speak to your pain and speak to your disappointment. Tell them by the power and the strength of God that is within me right now, you cannot stay. I am going to be successful. I am going to be happy.
Come on now.
The last tip, and definitely not the least of them all, is this. Face your past with gratitude and your future with confidence. Choose to be grateful. You know, gratitude is considered to be the second most powerful force in the world, right? But the number one force in the world is love. And God is love, so that's why it's number one. Makes sense, right? I like equations like that. But why is gratitude so important? It's important because it conditions your mind and it conditions your heart to receive the blessings and the promises that God has for you. Let's think about it. Let's pretend as if you've been disappointed behind getting a husband. And you become bitter about it, you become angry about it, and you've even become a pessimist about it because you just don't really believe that there are no more God-fearing, good-looking, handsome, rich men out there. That's a lot to dispel, I'll say that right now. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. But let's just pretend that's where we are, and we're angry about it, and we're bitter about it. What happens to you physically? Physically, your face changes. Physically, your demeanor changes. Physically, the way you walk and the way you show up in the room changes. So if God actually wanted to bless you with a husband, and he's sitting right there, and he's seeing you like this, you think he's gonna talk to you? But if you approach life with gratitude, if you approach life with joy and expectation that God can do what he says he can do, he's gonna give you the promises and the vision that he's given you, you're happy. Your countenance now is positive, right? So that's what we mean. You want to continue to approach life with confidence, with gratitude, so that you can be in perfect alignment to receive the blessings that God has for you. Closing thoughts. I want to share this story with you guys. Most of you are familiar with the story of Moses, right? In the Bible. And I think the story of Moses is probably the most powerful story of disappointment that you'll read. So the point I want to take you to is when Moses, he has led the children of Israel out of Egypt, and they're on the other side of the Red Sea. And they're getting ready to go on their 40-year journey into the Promised Land. So God calls Moses up into the mountain. Hey, come over here. Let's have a conversation. And they have a 40-day long conversation. I ain't never talked to nobody that long. But hey, that's what God wanted to do. So they have this conversation on the mountain. And while Moses is up there, God actually writes on the tablets what he wanted the children of Israel to do with his own hand. And at the end of 40 days, he said, okay, Moses, go back down to the mountain, go back down to the base of the mountain, and lead my children to their promised land. So Moses is walking along, feeling all good and everything. He done led the children of Israel out of Egypt. They're out of bondage. They're out of slavery. They're going towards a land of milk and honey. And not only that, he got to spend 40 whole days, one-on-one time with just him and God. And then, to add the icing to the cake, God hand wrote a letter to the children. So all these positive things were happening. He's walking down the mountain. He's just envisioning the future that he has with his wife, the future he has with his children, and the future that he has with his Israelite brothers. But what does he see when he gets to the base of the mountain? He sees the children worshiping a false god. And not only that, his brother Aaron led them. His own brother didn't even stop them. Can you imagine the pain, the hurt, the betrayal that he felt? How did Moses get through that? How did he overcome that type of disappointment? With perseverance. With keeping his eyes focused on the purpose of God. By keeping his eyes focused on the presence of God. And that's what I want to share with you this evening. Don't let the hurts and disappointments of this world leave you stuck and stagnated in a place that was not meant for you. Maintain hope. Persevere. Remember who God is and who he says you are. Be gentle with yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. And never give up. So, just to summarize, I always like to do a summary at the end. We have 5 steps I've given you to overcome disappointments. The first one is to re-examine your beliefs and always keep them at the forefront of your mind. Number 2 is to focus on the lessons learned. Number 3 is to be patient. Special orders take time because you're not regular folks. Number 4 is to remember your power to choose. and always choose to dwell in the power and the strength that's already working within you. And number 5, face your past with gratitude and your future with confidence. I have one final quote that I want to share with you, also by Harold Kushner. He says, "When life has dealt you a powerful blow, let it hurt, but trust yourself to get over it. Even as God has blessed our physical bodies with the ability to recuperate, God has also blessed our spirits with the miracle of resilience, so that we can survive our pain, bear our scars, and manage to go on living, surprising not only ourselves, but to those around us." Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about anything I said, or like to make a comment? Thank you. Thank you. Well, if there are no other questions, I have my contact information on the screen here. I also have a few books for sale. The name of my book is Engineering Faith. It's actually a story of my journey to learning how to have faith with the logical mind that I have. And it goes through the story of how I learned about God and learned about faith through my romantic relationships. So you can always reach me on my email at sm@livelifebeyondbarriers, and you can also look up my my website as well, livelifebeyondbarriers.com. Thank you.
All right, I enjoyed that. Thank you so much, Sharika. Okay, well, I think y'all want to give away some door prizes. Where's the Michelle? Where's the basket with the tickets? We're just gonna give away a couple of door prizes, and then we're gonna bring up Janae.